And welcome aboard the Tabletop Express. As always, my name is Chris Barrows, and I'm here joined once again by Anthony, Board Game Dads. Anthony, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. I'm very excited for tonight's topic.
Yeah, and I guess I should preface this by saying we designed this topic in a way that I feel like we can cover a lot, but at the same time, I think we'll be back. And we should speak to this actually, really how we did it, because we designed this in a way that we're going to talk about these games that we think are great modern games to introduce people with, right? But we're talking them topically. So this is not some sort of top five great entry level games. We are actually looking at this at the type of games that they are. And Anthony, I did not consult you prior on the games and themes I was picking on. So let's just get that out there right now.
Yes, I was not consulted. There's no collusion here. Anything you hear otherwise is fake news.
Well, with that said, I am excited about this topic, and I think we'll kick it off with you in just a moment. But I just want to say, for me, the way I picked these games, it was a few ways. Games that I've had great experiences teaching people, so that was part of it. I wanted to have that experience that was good, right? But the other things I thought about was also theme. Was this something that people could get immersed in? Um, and ultimately, I have a few thematic topics that I think are a lot of fun in terms of the type of game. But again, you're going to see, I'm going to tell you right now, I kind of have worker placement, but I don't have that true worker placement in this particular session. So we're going to have to be back because it was actually a really tough topic for me to even think about which one I would use. And I decided to save it for another day. So I'm just going to put it out there. How did you go for the process of picking games and topics for this particular evening?
Well, first of all, because the idea here is that we're trying to attract new people to this hobby, I picked games that have what I think is a very good table presence. I think, as with most things, right, the first way you sort of consume something is usually with your eyes, whether that's food or a movie or a board game. And so if you see this box and you see these pieces out on a table and they look pretty cool, well, that might just pique your interest enough to come on over and see what
Right.
they're about. And similar to what you said, I tried to pick games in different categories where it was like, okay, here's a modern day board game mechanism that we see a lot in games now, but there's a bit of a roots in it to what a lot of people might be familiar with some very older games. And so I'll kind of go into that with each of my picks to an extent.
Awesome. Well, let's jump right into it. And I'm not surprised to see this one on your list, though I know this is a newer one. But I'm excited to hear you talk about this one.
Yeah, I was really excited to get this game. This game was actually part of a board game subscription that my wife and I did, where every other month you get three options of a game to choose. And this was one of the games that we chose. And I was excited because it was a game that came out in 2020. I don't always get the latest new hotness games. It's just not really my style overall. I try not to spend a lot of money on games. But that being said, this was a no brainer because this is a gorgeous looking game. It is Santa Monica, as you can see. And this is my entry for what we call building a tableau. If you're not familiar with that, it's basically just you're playing cards usually right in front of you that either attach to each other some way or sort of complement each other, and you're building this tableau. As the game goes on, it's going to get bigger. And in this one in particular, you are trying to build the most attractive pier on the Santa Monica, boardwalk coastline type of thing. You're doing that by picking cards from sort of a center market, and you do have two types of cards. So you start with something in the middle, and you can build on either side, but there's cards that are oceanfront cards and cards that are sort of boardwalk cards, and they have to stay in their respective places. So it looks really cool as this thing expands on the table, and you're getting points by getting these visitors to come, whether they're locals or tourists, and go to these different spots and do these different activities and whatnot. Just a gorgeous looking game. You can almost hear the seagulls when you open the box on this one. And I hope, for one, I hope that there is either an expansion for this, or I wouldn't mind seeing a sort of a new setting for this game, right? So another, say, notable famous beach type area. I mean, personally, I'd love to see a New Jersey version of this, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
Wildwood, a Santa Monica game, or whatnot. Artwork is absolutely fantastic on this. Highly recommend it. That's my first pick.
So you could you've got a good point. You could actually open this up to either going to a different type of theme, which is not necessarily a beach, or you could stick with the beach theme. So this is quite a few ways to grow.
Yeah, for sure.
That's really interesting, actually. And this one, like you said, I think tableau building is a ton of fun. I consider talking about tableau building, and there's a variety of games that have done it for me. But this one, not one that I've had a chance to play yet. So I'm excited to eventually get to play this and see what I think. But the one that I have for my first topic, and I think people will see very early on that we can cover a lot, and we're probably going to cover a lot over a series of these videos. Onitama, and I call this the topic of the one that feels a lot like chess. But honestly, the real theme behind this is that familiarity. You talked about that familiarity to the old school game, right? The classic. And so for me, I highly considered Santorini for this. I just want to put this out there. Santorini, which is a fantastic game, really considered Santorini, but I'm going to tell you, Onitama kind of has trumped that for me. I mentioned this on one of our first shows that we did together, that this was my most played game of 2020. So now Onitama is a game, and it'll be similar to you again, like chess, where you've in this case got 5 pieces. You've got your main piece and 4 additional pieces. You all start at the back of the board, and the board is this beautiful thing that you roll out. It is not a board in that traditional sense of a board game, but it's actually a beautiful mat that comes with the game.
Yeah, it's almost like a mouse pad kind of feel to it.
Yeah, I mean, it is a play mat. That's the reality. It is a play mat that comes with the game. But what makes this different is there's 2 ways to win. And you can kind of see this in that one of the first photo in the upper left, the top left, where the main piece is sitting on top of a spot that has a little symbol on it. And just to simplify this, I'll just put it this way. If the opponent's main piece makes it to that slot, they win. You also win by knocking out that spot. So the equivalent of putting the king in checkmate, almost, you would say. What's great about this game, and why I play this game more than chess, and I like chess, I think chess is a great game, is the movements vary from game to game. In the bottom right, you're going to see some of the cards. And as you play this game, you're going to draw 5 cards at the start. The rest go back in the box. Once you've played a card in terms of a movement, you move that card to the side of a board. The next player will go with a movement of their choice. They will then take the card that you used. So your movement now goes to your opposition. My wife, as an example, really likes, for example, a card like the dragon card because it can go up 1 over 2. She'll try to hold that as long as she can because she knows it's really useful in a particular match. But I don't know. For me, this game, it definitely has a familiar feel. So that's a big reason why I use it to introduce. It's a 2-player game. You can really do this nice one-on-one training. So for me, Onitama, a very, very easy choice for my choice for the game that reminds you of chess. But really, it's the game that connects you to the old classics. So that's going to be my first choice tonight. And again, we're each going to do 5 tonight, but we'll certainly be back with more of these.
Yes, there is a lot of material, we quickly realized after making these lists. I love this game as well. It was close to making the list. I really did sort of fathom that you would put it on, so I did avoid it for that reason. I don't think to repeat. I know you love this game too. This is a great equalizer for people who might not want to play chess. I taught chess to kids for a few years, and I would bring this game to chess club after a few weeks. And it really evens the playing field because, like you said, there's only 5 possible movements that are going to take place in this game. And they're all face up. So you know when you're making your move, whereas in chess, you have to sort of, try to get in your opponent's head and do all these what ifs or whatnot. There's certainly some of that in Onitama, but those 2 cards are face up in front of your opponent. You know what their 2 possible moves are on their turn, thus helping you plan your move a little bit. This is just a hit. I've never seen a game get played more often and faster than this game. You teach this game in 2 minutes, literally.
And Lauren commented here, I'm not a chess person, but I like Onitama. And I think that's one of the things I noticed. You don't have to like chess and you'll like this game. In fact, you can be familiar with chess and you're going to enjoy this game if you didn't like chess.
Absolutely.
because
Absolutely.
it's different every time. But yeah, that's going to be my pick. What do you got next?
Well, so again, I didn't want to put Onitama on the list, but you actually mentioned the game that almost made your list, which is my pick for the abstract category, and that is Santorini, as you mentioned. A beautiful looking game. It has more of, I guess I'd call it more of a checkers feel than chess, but that's a very loose comparison because you're not capturing any pieces in this game. All you're doing in this game on your turn is you are moving one of your pieces, one space, and then you are building something next to wherever you move to. And as you can see in the picture on the left, you're building these actual plastic structures. Talk about good table presence. This has toy factor written all over it. It could easily be confused for like a play set at first, but it's so cool looking. And you're basically, to win the game, all you have to do is get one of your pieces, and you have two, up to the top floor of one of these buildings that you're building. Sounds easy, right? Well, it's not, because your opponent is going to be building things and blocking you. And as you can see here, the couple of buildings that are fully built here have that blue dome on top. You can no longer go on top of that. So that's essentially blocking your opponent from going there. It also comes with a whole bunch of god cards. Another reason why I love this game. I love Greek mythology, and this has a whole bunch of gods and goddesses and other types of characters from Greek mythology. And you don't have to play with these cards, but you can. It does add a little extra layer of strategy. Each player just picks one, so you only have one card for the whole game, and they all do different things. It's pretty cool. Adds a lot of replayability because you only use one card each game, and there's a ton in here. I think there's actually expansions for this game. I don't have them. I don't know that I need them, to be honest. So the last time I said that, I ended up buying 2 games, so I should watch what I say.
I don't need the expansion either, and I like what you mentioned with the god cards, because the god cards give it that ability to up the game.
Yeah.
So that adaptability of, oh, interesting game, oh, but you like it, okay, let's make it a little bit more fun. Let's make it harder.
Yeah.
And the god cards, I don't know, the god cards are a lot of fun, but I think this game is great because it teaches you strategy in terms of board games. It teaches you, I don't know. For me, it's very easy to teach, and this is before I met Onitama. This probably would have been one I mentioned as the, hey, you like chess.
Right.
We did get a question, by the way, and this is all in the realm of, I think, our conversation, but does it take as long as chess? Santorini nor Onitama, I know this was about Onitama, but neither one of these games, to me, take very long. Onitama can take 10 minutes at most in most times that I've played it, 10, 15 minutes if you're used to playing it.
I mean, it could take 5 minutes if
it could.
It could be a quick victory. But yeah, it's definitely not as long as chess. And another reason why I loved it for kids, because their attention span may not be into a full chess game, or they start making kind of reckless moves because they don't really care what happens. Yeah, this is a good one.
But I think both of those fall in that category. Again, they both fall. I think they're just really good games to start people off who've played a game like that before. For me, I do want to say my next one is one that I see the board game community has a love-hate relationship with, and I'm okay with that, because in the long run, this is about getting people to play and teaching them some of the things, right? So for me, my card drafting game that I lead with is Sushi Go, and very specifically, I want to stress this: Sushi Go Party. Sushi Go Party comes with this board that you see here. This, by the way, was from a Board Game Geek user, because my copy is not present with me, so I needed to pull something. So Board Game user Torshi is there. Game Right Games does this. One, I just want to say, if Game Right Games does something, it's great for family. That's just a good starter. Just start right there and go. Sushi Go Party, though, you are drafting cards and doing set collection. I could have talked about this from a set collection perspective too, I suppose, but for me, it's really about the drafting of cards and teaching that action of, you're going to pass cards around and you're going to have to take one. And every time you're going to do this until you've got this set of cards. So this teaches that basic action. In this, what's great about it, and the reason I like Sushi Go Party, is all of the way things score are right on the board in front of you. You're doing multiple rounds, so since you're doing these rounds, you're also going to see what the score is. So you're going to know, where are people at. If you get just the regular version, it doesn't have the board right in front of you. You're not seeing all of this information present, which I just think makes it easy. Sushi Go Party, by the way, same reason I like Santorini, and for what you mentioned, it has something really important. You can update, you can customize. It has a book of menus, you know, and the menus mean you can play in all these different ways. So you can change the game. The variability is huge.
Oh yeah.
So for me, that's why this goes. I understand why some people who have been playing board games a while would say, oh, I don't want to play this one, but I still enjoy it. And I think when introducing, it's a good one. I do want to also bring up, since we're talking about this, our good friend Ryan is here. And Ryan did mention Azul will be my choice regarding table presence and simplicity with colorful tiles and set collection. Very easy for kids to learn, quite accessible. Very good choice. Azul is a good one. Ryan, I always appreciate when Ryan jumps in because he always has some great things to add in this topics. He did mention, by the way, he's not played Onitama or Santa Monica, so he's going to be changing that after this video.
All right.
But yeah, that I don't know. Do you like Sushi Go Party? Is that kind of
Yeah, I love it. I actually have Sushi Go Party and I have the original Sushi Go because again, I had that for Board Game Club. Teaching kids, it was a little easier to have just that basic set. But we also own Sushi Roll as well,
yes,
which is it used to be over here somewhere. Here it is.
Mine is over there, where you can't see it in the other board game section. But
nice.
Yes,
it's in the West Wing.
Yeah, West Wing.
But yeah, I mean the dice game is, I think, a little better for 2 players. I'm sorry, I think a little better for 2 players versus multiple players with the card game. But they're both really great, and they have great artwork too. It's cutesy, it's fun, and if you like that type of game, if you like that drafting mechanism, then boy, are you in for a lot of good games because this is a mechanism that is in a whole lot of games, not only with cards, with other types of parts of the game as well. So drafting, one of my favorite mechanics, actually.
Yeah,
sure.
And again, this also had the set collection, which I think is important. I didn't focus on the set collection.
Right.
I will do that probably potentially today or at another time. But I there's other games I think do set collection a little bit better from a teaching perspective.
Sure.
This one's more really about the drafting to try and put the best sets together, but the drafting is the focal mechanism for me. So.
Oh, and we have a Sushi Go fan here, Josue, saying we love playing Sushi Go with the kids. They love it. Gonna have to try that party version for sure.
Yes.
I think definitely it's a game that if you play with your kids and you've played enough times, transitioning to this other version will be very easy for sure.
Definitely.
Cool. All right. So my next pick here is, I guess, the party game category. It's one of those, and there's a ton of these, and I usually don't like them, where, someone gives one clue, everyone gives a response to that clue secretly. One person that gave the clue is the judge, and it's let me judge the best answer kind of thing. This is Dixit. There's a twist on this versus, say, a game like Cards Against Humanity, where you're just picking one person's answer that you like the best, is that everyone is choosing what images they like in this game. And if you're the person who gave the clue, you would want, I always screw up these rules. I think you want not everyone to guess it, and not like 0 people to guess it. You want at least one person to guess it. So if people guess your clue, or your card rather, you'll get points. If you are the one who guesses correctly, you'll get points. But what's cool about Dixit is when you give the clue, there's really no restriction on what kind of clue you're giving. It doesn't have to be just one word. It could be 3 words. It could be a song. You could sing something. You could just make a noise, for crying out loud. You could be like, and then everyone has to look at the cards and be like, oh, gee, which one of these pictures looks like a fart sound? And then play it. For that reason, I think any age, for the most part, can play this game, to the point where I think if you play with mixed ages, you're probably going to have even more fun, because a 7-year-old's perception of what's on this artwork on this card is going to vary greatly from, say, an adult. And
that's true.
The art on these cards are so surreal and wacky on purpose. They're just beautiful to look at. They're nice, big tarot-sized cards as well.
It feels like something if you were getting a psychological test, that they would be showing you and saying, "What do you see?"
Yeah,
I see a pineapple, or I don't know what I mean. Like, it's just that's what. And here's the thing: the thing about this game to me is it has a variety of expansions. You can
Yeah.
add to the art. In fact, people are very opinion on Board Game Geek about which expansions are good, which fit with the. I mean, if you want to dig into this, you could go down a rabbit hole because there are a bunch of these.
Oh yeah.
And sometimes the styles alternate. Now, what I like about this too, because I think it's a great choice, is you get in something like this. Eventually, you can bring someone up to a game, for example, like Mysterium. Mysterium is a fantastic game that's got a thematic thing of the ghost and the people who are trying to figure out what the ghost is telling them. But you can't start people at Mysterium, in my opinion. It's just a lot for at least, especially with younger kids. So to me, this is a great stepping stone to these type of games, and arguably better than a Codenames. And in my opinion, I think it's a little more fun. And I like Codenames. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I think this is a better option.
I don't think Codenames is the laugh it up quick party game that it sort of presented itself to be when it came out, maybe, or that was just the way that I was, receiving people's opinions about it. It's more thinky than party game. Yes, but I love it for sure.
It's a great game, but you're right. It is definitely different in that sense.
But Dixit has a lot of expansions that has a really solid place in the board game hobby, to the point where many other games, like you mentioned Mysterium, I'll even mention When I Dream, which is similar as well, have these games come out. And when people review these games, they say this game has Dixit-like artwork or Dixit-type cards. So when you have a game and you reference another game type in your description, you know that game is good.
Yeah, so the credit to the multitude of artists who have done art. There's too many to name because there's a lot, but really amazing artwork in that one. I can't speak to artwork as much as table presence for my game. And my game is one that we had mentioned by Ryan. It is Azul. And this is for me the abstract game. And it really, I look at Azul. This is a game where you are collecting these tiles, and you've got circles essentially in the middle of the table that you have to select only one type off. You can pull from a middle spot to take them, but then you're taking penalties. To penalty marker in the beginning, that's a first turn as well, but there's a penalty when you go over and you can't place tiles. They go into this bottom row where you're now getting negative points. Sometimes those negative points are worth it though. What you're trying to do is fill these rows to get points, whether it be for 2 points for going across or 7 points for all the way down. There's a few extra bonuses that you can get, but let me just tell you, when you play Azul and it's on the table, it just won. It looks beautiful. Ryan kind of talked about the colorful sets. There are 3 versions of Azul. I am talking about the first version of Azul that I ever played, which is the one that's pictured here, and it's one that I own. But there's 3 versions of this, and they all vary a little bit. I have actually not played the second and the third, and I need to. But this one, honestly, it's a classic for me. And the idea behind this game and Plan B Games and others who have Next Move and Plan B Games and all those who are behind this, I think they just did a great job with it. Now, I'll say this, I do have the expansion that has clear tiles. I also have the expansion that adds a variety of different ways that you're going to want to place your tiles. So some slightly different requirements where you have to place them only in each row. Maybe there's like one spot that you've got to put maybe the red one, or as my wife says, it looks like a starburst. Oh, yeah. And then you can buy, if you want to go down the rabbit hole, you can buy like unique looking completely for every single thing, which is unnecessary.
Do you have the player boards that are like insert?
Yes. I also have it. Yeah, they sell a player board that's an insert that you can put it that makes the thing stay on, makes the little pieces stay on. I'll just tell you, Azul to me, I get this game out. I've used it for the Verona Library Club. And we do have a comment from Danielle here who says, I played my first Azul game, Summer Pavilion, this past weekend. I loved it. I've not played Summer Pavilion, so that is one on the list. But, when it comes down to it, that is just a good example. They're really beautiful looking games, like I said, but they play well too. So, again, beautiful and plays well. The combo, I think, is great for those beginners because you got to get the hook, right? You got to get them saying, can I play that again? Is there anything else like this? And then you slowly introduce these other elements and you're like, oh, that's kind of cool. I like this. Or you learn they don't like something, like, I don't like this worker placement thing. Right. I love worker placement. There was a joke. Someone made a joke the other day about if you could get rid of anything, he'd get rid of worker placement. I said that you Thanos half my collection, which it made me sad to think about, but it's true. I'm going to add, because Ryan always adds such great value to these. Ryan's mentioning for cooperative dice chucking, The Curse of the Temple, and he notes that he loves how exciting Escape gets, especially with the soundtrack in the background. And I want to add this: when you do add music or other things to the game, there's actually a website for that that's slipping my mind. Board Game Sounds or something. I can't remember it, but
that sounds right. Yeah,
it's something like that. But it's really neat. You can set a game and it puts music, which can be really cool. I've done it for Robinson Crusoe a long, long time ago, and Betrayal at the House on the Hill. Yes, but I digress. I think your next one is one that I own, but have only played once, sadly.
Oh, okay.
And it's a really sad thing to say, because honestly, I don't even know much on how to play it. So I'll be learning a few things.
Nice. Well, this is my my set collection submission here for the list. So, set collection is something that, again, I mentioned some things that are a lot older in games. Set collection is a very old mechanic, right? I mean, if you ever played Rummy 500, any version of that, you're collecting sets of cards. This is what set collection is about. In this game in particular, which is called New York Slice, you are collecting slices of pizza. Now, this game is what I like to call the total package. When you talk about a game that really could be any theme, and by the way, this game is based on an older game, I believe, called Piece of Cake or Piece of Cake, or that one's newer, whatever. It's the same concept. This one is with pizza. But when I say the whole package, this thing, first of all, comes in a pizza-shaped box, okay, to the point where it opens like a pizza box and is attached like this, right? And I mean, I'm not going to tilt it too much because all these pieces are going to fall out.
The instruction manual's a menu, which, I mean, you
put this on the table. If you don't know what this is, you're thinking this is a pizza menu, folks. This is incredible graphic design, graphic layout here. Just unbelievable. Even the score pad is your little check thing here. I mean, it's like so much thought went into this. Such a simple game. It has a very cool mechanism, which is not in a lot of games, called I Split, You Choose. So essentially, you build a random pizza, like you see there on that picture, and then whoever's the slicer that round will split that pizza up into as many portions as there are players. You can split it up any way you want, but you can't rearrange the slices at all. There's also some daily specials, which do various things for scoring and whatnot, that you could also have as one of the groups to take. So if you're the slicer, you're the one making the groups, but you're the last one to choose which one you take. It messes with your mind big time, because you're looking at, it's like, all right, that person has a couple of 8s. I don't want them to get another 8. But if I take that 8, it's going to be attached to this 2 that I don't really want either. Well, no 2. I think the lowest one is 4. But anyway, at the end of the game, you're just going to count as many sets you have of each number, right? How many 7s, 8s, 9s, etc. And then in addition to that, you can also choose to eat some of the pizza, and you'll get points that way for any pepperoni slices that are on that slice at the end of the game. And it's just, like I said, it's dripping with the theme here for a game that doesn't have a lot of theme. They really went all out. This is from Bezier Games, one of the best packaged games I've seen overall. You got to play this one again.
It is, again, I've played it, I think, once, but it won't leave the collection because it's just so good in terms of the thematic part. I couldn't. It sat there. I got it relatively inexpensive. I think I got it for like $5. It was a really good deal.
Oh wow, nice.
It was like a Barnes and Noble like super sale. But that said, yeah, it has not seen enough table time. It will get out this year. That is for sure. One that I'm going to talk about now, though, I got to tell you, a person, by the way, Mellow Dice. Ryan came in for the save for us. Mellow Dice is one of the websites for the music.
Oh, okay.
Mellow Dice. That's one of them. I know there's multiple ones, but that one is definitely one that I'm aware of. But yeah, I'm going to talk about one I've played a lot. This is my wife's arguably favorite game, which probably tips off to what it is for you. But that's Carcassonne. And here's the thing about this game. The photo on the right is actually the Board Game Club. It's one of the older boxes, and so the art's slightly different, a little more vibrant, in my opinion. And then this is an older game that I had played with all the people off of it. All the meeples are off of it. And that was probably 2 years ago. But here's the thing about this game. There's my first version, all this stuff. I taught this game to my son when he was young. And the idea behind this game is you pick a tile, you pick a tile up, you play it down, and you decide if you're going to play a worker. So there's a worker placement element here. But the tile laying portion of this, to me, was just always a blast to learn. It was a great way to teach the basic ideas of tile laying. And then they're not thinking about, but they're also learning this worker placement element. For me, in this game, in Carcassonne, where you can either play a meeple on a road, and then when the road completes, you get full points. You can play a meeple in a city, and when you complete it, each tile you're going to get points for. Not as much if you didn't complete it. You'll still get some points at the end of the game. And then there's the farmer element. You lay the guy down on the side, and some people don't play with the farmer. You don't have to play with the farmer, and this is what I actually think is important. The first time you teach someone, it's almost a good idea to not play with the farmer, and then eventually teach them to play with the farmer, because the farmer is a little more complicated. For every city that gets completed within your overall area, you're going to get some points. And to me, the fact that you can play this relatively simple, it doesn't play that long. I mean, you could play this game in 20 minutes. If you're 25 minutes, once you learn the game, it plays pretty quick. Yeah. It's also got the expansions that add a lot of value. And I could talk about expansions of this game all day long, because I own almost all of them, except I think the tower is the only one I don't own, because it has a little bit of a take that element that I have no desire to partake in personally. But for me, Carcassonne, it's a classic, and this is the only real classic on this list today, but it's a classic that I think people should own and play, and I think it's a great way to introduce people to modern gaming, even though it's at the beginning of the modern game cycle. I would argue it's a classic, but it's a modern classic. So
right.
But that's for me. And again, it's got like 34 plus publishers listed, which goes to show you, I mean, it is a mass market game at this point. Yeah. Mass market does not mean bad thing. And I think that's an important thing nowadays, is mass market's not bad. Go look at the shelf on Target. I mean, I just borrowed a game from you today. That's a mass market game, Back to the Future. And I just opened it up. It looks fantastic. So let's get the negative out of mass market for people, especially gamers, because mass market's not necessarily bad anymore.
Yeah, no, I agree. Times are changing there. Yeah, Carcassonne, again, it's in my collection, a couple different versions. So many expansions for this. I mean, it's unreal. It took me a while to really warm up to Carcassonne. It was one of the first games that I learned how to play, and my buddy Eric, who taught it to me, he liked it so much, and he kept getting these expansions. So every time we played, he had a new expansion, and my learning curve was then always like a step behind, right? Because I was trying to wrap my head around the farmers, right, for example, and now he's got this new thing that has more points here and here. But when I finally warmed up to it, I really warmed up to it, and it is easily one of our most played games in this house. I think, to your point quickly about the farmers, I believe that the latest versions of this game, the rule book says that the farmers are actually a variant rule that you don't have to play. So I think that feeling of that sort of seeped into someone, and they kind of made that call. But yeah, it's a great one.
Ryan chiming in here that one of my favorites is the Star Wars one for Carcassonne. It's hard to find. Expansion is also fitting me, but I shall get my hands on it. Yeah, I've heard about that one. I would like that one. I have behind me, if you are eagle-eyed, you can see Carcassonne the Castle, which is one of my favorite two-player games. It's really good, but there's a lot of different versions of Carcassonne. But yeah, the Star Wars one is out there somewhere. Good luck. Yeah,
I don't know how widely that one is. How widely that one was printed.
I don't know. It's hard to find.
It's gone like super fast.
Star Wars fans, I mean, if you can get a hold of it for a decent price, which I don't even know what a decent price would be now, you would love it. You would love it. So
cool. All right. So I've got one more pick here. We didn't mention worker placement a few times, and I did want to get a worker placement game. Now, you could argue that this is not it is not solely a worker placement game. It is one mechanism in this game. This game is called Hanga. This is from a company called Haba, which makes incredible children's games and other kids products, but also games that are for older people, for families in general. And this is one of those family games. This has some worker placement in the fact that you're placing down these circular tiles. So you can see on the board here on the picture to the right, there's 4 possible areas you can play down a tile, but each of those areas is, excuse me, is split into 4 quarters as well. So when you play this circular tile down, however many symbols are facing in each direction, that's how many times you're taking that particular action. So you have a lot of choices on different things to do here. You're going to collect resources. There is certainly set collection in this game. You can collect certain resources and then trade them in for points. You can climb up this little mountain type thing to praise the old gods and get points that way. You want to pet Hanga, who's the saber-toothed tiger. If you don't pet him, he's going to come and start stealing fish and other resources from your player board. Great table presence. Great pieces here, as you can see, the woolly mammoths and the saber-toothed tiger and the fire things. Just a great looking game. My one complaint, which is a very recent, as in tonight complaint, is that as I was taking photos of this game, I guess I was a little too rough with the board, and I ended up splitting the board down the middle somehow. Not the biggest deal because it doesn't really change the functionality that much. It just looks kind of janked up now. And it's funny because I saw someone else maybe a year ago do this with this particular game live on a stream where she was unfolding the board to show the camera and it ripped in half. So maybe the board
it was not complete surprise.
Yeah. I guess the board is just not made as well as the other components, but
you were pushing your luck.
I was. You know what it was? I was trying to, sometimes the board doesn't lay flat, right? And there's that little bubble in the middle. And if you kind of like fold the board counter to that for like a little bit, it tends to kind of even out a little bit. I guess I just went a little too far and cut the cord there. But yeah, so that's Hanga. I think this one is still available. I haven't looked for it, to be honest, but anything from Haba is A-okay in my book, so check that out.
Well, I am going to push my luck here and talk about a push your luck game. And this is one that some will disagree with me on this. I think it's fair to say, and that's okay. We're on the internet, so disagreeing is, I feel like, expected. But I have had great luck pushing this, and I think that this push your luck game works really well for that, and that is Quacks. I don't think this game is that complicated. You can pick in this game, first and foremost, there's a variety of ingredients that you're going to start with, and then at the end of every round, you get to buy more ingredients. There are costs to those ingredients and abilities for those ingredients. But the thing is, you could set up the game with the most simple to understand ingredients and teach this game at a fairly early age. Now, I'm not suggesting you teach your 5-year-old per se or your 4-year-old this game, right? But I think if you're trying to get someone into a game, this game has a great table presence. You're pulling ingredients out of a bag. You're trying to put them on your board, and you're trying to push your luck, because if you get too much of a certain ingredient, boom, the pot explodes. And the process of this, of like, oh, should I go one more? Oh, I see where he's at. I got to decide. Okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Boom. And now the great thing about this game, and I think why this falls into it, is it also doesn't completely punish you, because now you're limited to one of 2 actions in the kind of end of round moment. And to me, that makes it really teachable, because you do not feel as bad about blowing up, but that makes it a little more user-friendly. Now, the funny thing is, I share this game. I have never won a game of this. Not one single game. My son has won. My wife has won. We play it all the time. I'm yet to win a game, and I still love it. So for me, that's pretty important. But my wife and son love it. I've taught this to in-laws. I've taught this to friends, and everyone seems to be like, "Oh, this is great." Again, pushing your luck is a lot of fun. There is strategy to it, because you're also smart about what you're buying. You got to think about what you're going to buy. How are you going to pair these things together? So again, I think it is preparing you for other games and how you're thinking ahead about what you're getting. So for me, this game, Quacks of Quedlinburg, great game, push your luck, really beautifully designed, and it just feels fun to play.
Oh yeah. Oh
You'll
yeah.
lose this game. You're going to lose this game a lot of times if you own it, but that's okay because it is push your luck. It is so much luck involved in this game that you can't get that angry when you lose.
Yeah, no, for sure. I love this game. Um, this was a game that was on my radar from the get go, and was so excited when I finally got to play it. Like you said, it's just the push your luck element is great in this because, like you said, even if you bust, you don't lose everything, right? You're still going to walk away from the turn with something, and that's cool because you don't feel like you're defeated every turn. And to
Yes.
that point too, the other thing that this game does that's great is there's this sort of built-in kind of catch-up mechanism. So there's not always going to be someone who's in first place right away and like you're never going to catch them because whoever's sort of in last can start on their track a little sooner than everyone else, right? They get a
Yes.
little bit of a sort of a head start to compensate for being behind. And that's great too because that's a thing that can keep people in the game, right? And they don't feel like they're out on the third turn and they have no way of catching up.
That's
So
I'm
bravo to
glad you
Quack
mentioned
for
that too,
that.
because you can also spend, you can flip in the game, you can flip over the, I'll put it back up so you can see. Oh, that's, you don't want to see that. You can flip over that little rat. Well, there's the rat, you've got that rat.
Oh, the bottle there too.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you pop him in to push the flame up. But then there's also that little bottle next to the rat. And that bottle you can use if you bust to kind of help yourself a little bit. But I don't know. This game, it's just great. I will note that Ryan mentioned Haba, by the way, Adventureland. And so this is another suggestion. Ryan always bringing some good suggestions. So I like to make sure we share them. Fighting monsters, avoiding river rafts, gathering loot, and building your army. So a lot of good stuff with that one. Some good suggestions. And as always, we do appreciate everyone jumping in. Are there any games that you all like? Feel free to share. If you do have any questions about any games that we shared, we are happy to discuss a little bit and answer those. We definitely tried to answer them during, but if we missed anything, let me know. We'll be happy to cover that. But as you noticed, we didn't cover nearly every existing board game category. I didn't cover worker placement. I'll be honest, I had this whole debate about if I was to do worker placement in this video. And I was thinking to myself about all the games, and I honestly was just, I'm like, I needed another go around before I even went down that path. Because a lot of typical worker placement games, you mentioned a good one, but a lot of people mentioned Stone Age, and I'm just be upfront right here. I don't think it's interesting enough to teach new people compared to some of the other games out there. The theme doesn't grab me personally. So I'd like, to me, you do want to grab them with something that's exciting that you can immerse them in.
Right.
When people talk about theme, and to me, it's an immersion, right? And get them excited. At the same time, I have to debate certain things. I love Raiders of the North Sea, but is that really entry level? So some good stuff. Ryan brings up Lords of Waterdeep and Stone Age, but like I said, I think again, some good debate there. So we'll cover a lot of these. We'll definitely be doing another one of these videos in the future, at least one. There's room for more than one here.
Yeah.
So if you would like to see Anthony or I cover a certain game in the next one that we didn't cover this time, let us know, and I'll do at least one that anyone recommends. If you want me to do my worker placement, I'll do that with the next one. But that said, this was a lot of fun. So I will follow up and I will put our list of our favorites of our topics for this one so you can see that in the description. I do want to also take this time, of course, to remind you to give the Tabletop Express a follow on YouTube. You can search Tabletop Express to find us. We also got that handy new URL that you can find on all our accounts now. So I want to thank everyone for jumping in and doing that. And that said, if you've helped me get over that 100 hump, I want you to go over to Anthony's channel. If you haven't already, please, if you're watching this now or later, go follow Anthony, help him get over the 100 hump, because again, that URL is just, I'm a marketer, as you all know by now, and it's annoying when you don't have it in my mind.
It is, because if you go onto YouTube and search Board Game Dads, you don't see me. That's because I don't have that name yet, because I don't have those 100 subscribers. There's a lot of weird things that come up. Better though than when I used to call the first title I had for my handles and things was Dad Boards, And if you look up dad boards, you get things like dad boards train with gun and dad boards boat with
Oh no.
not his own children or something like that. It was awful. So yeah, I'm glad I made that change. But yeah, come on over, guys. Give me a subscribe and like this video too, because that helps both of us down the line.
Yes. And I will say this, stay tuned. I will say I've got another tabletop talk coming up, and we're talking about accessibility this Saturday at noon. It's going to be a really great topic, accessibility of board games. I'm going to be moderating that. I've got people who are much smarter than me on that one. So please go check that out. You know, we've got 2 board game designers and literally a blogger who talks constantly on his blog about how you can make board games more accessible. So it's gonna be really good. And I mean, you know, McPherson from Tiny Town is gonna be on. We got the designer of Monstrosity on. So it's gonna be a good talk. Anthony, anything on your channel to check out? I know you did drop one that I thought was really good about fairy tales because it was National Fairy Tale Day. And that was a great video that I know I tried to get out there and share with people.
Yeah, we're doing Eric and I did back-to-back sort of, well, so we'd always do like a holiday spotlight thing. So last week was Tell a Fairy Tale Day, with some fairy tale games or elements of fairy tales in the games. And then this week on Wednesday, we're dropping or actually I might do it tomorrow. It is Read Across America Day tomorrow, Dr. Seuss's birthday. So we have some games that are based on or inspired by books, whether they're children's books or not. And that's the first time I had a special guest myself on. So check that out on my YouTube channel if you get a chance.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank everyone for joining. Of course, as always, appreciate you taking the time to come aboard the Tabletop Express. And with that said, I look forward to seeing you again soon and hopefully on Saturday. Have a great night, everybody.